platform, Moodle platform. So today we will see two divide and conquer algorithms. The same will be you need to write programs for the same. That is two divide and conquer algorithms we will be familiarizing. And by now, all theory slots F1 or F2, you might have got the theory class for divide and conquer strategy. So you know the approach. I'll just tell you the algorithms and you need to write code or program for that. And from the course committee, it has been confirmed that you can mostly, you are like encouraged to write C programs, C or C++. And in rare circumstances, you can use Python because Python is a little easy. So you don't know the internal working of the code. Suppose if it is a matrix multiplication program, then Python means you can directly multiply two matrices. So what is happening inside matrix multiplication that you don't understand probably if you use Python. So this is the reason why Python is discouraged, but still you are allowed to use, and Java you cannot use. Okay. In the first lab, we hope that it is okay with Java, but since you didn't have any formal course on Java, the committee says that Java cannot be permitted. So you can use either C, C++, C and C++ most welcome, and in rare cases Python. For some experiments, you can use Python because it's okay. If we feel okay, then we can use Python, but otherwise you need to stick on C or C++. So now let us start the divide and conquer algorithms. Two divide and conquer algorithms I have planned for today since it is a very long lab session, like 1 hour and 40 minutes or something like that. It is so I'll try to wind up as early as possible and I'll let you to start your exercise on Moodle. So let us, without wasting time, we can start. I'll share the screen. So this is today what we are going to do. Our first experiment will be divide and conquer strategy, the application of divide and conquer strategy for finding out the minimum and maximum element in an array. So in the introductory session, you might have learned how to find the minimum and maximum in an array without divide and conquer, the naive approach or the traditional approach. How will you find the maximum and minimum in an array using traditional approach or you have the naive approach? So 27, 16, 51, 96, 64, and 8. Let this be our array A. How will you find out the minimum and maximum in this array? You can
So
just tell me. Yeah.
we'll initialize a temporary variable called max to the first element of the array, and then
Yeah.
we'll run for loop. And if the element is any element of the array is greater than max, then we'll reinitialize max to the greater element.
Exactly. This logic is very familiar to you and exactly that is correct. So let us conclude like, or we can formally write it like for I equal to, I'm just writing the pseudo code or you can consider it as code or pseudo code or whatever. I less than or equal to n, I plus plus, and or maybe if the index is starting from 0, then I less than n will be sufficient. So that those are programming constructs, so we don't bother about such things. So here what we can do is if a sub I is greater than the existing maximum, then what is to be done?
Max equals to a sub I.
Yeah, exactly. Max equal to, you have to reassign the max value, max equal to a sub I. And since we are finding maximum and minimum in one shot, you can do that using the same for loop. You can do that. So a sub I is less than minimum, then minimum equal to a sub I. Okay, you can have semicolon or without semi, whatever. It's a pseudo code. So while doing actual program, we will be worried about the syntax, exact syntax and all. So this is the code, and at the end of this for loop, if you allow to execute to the full until the condition fails, you can then you can have your maximum element in the array in the max variable and minimum element in the array in the min variable. So that is how the logic is, and this is very familiar to us. Now my question is, if you want to do the same program using D and C approach, that is divide and conquer approach, from the theory classes you will be knowing what is divide and conquer and how will you apply for a problem. So here the problem is finding the maximum and minimum. How will you apply this divide and conquer to this question? If this is your problem, how can you apply?
So this
There will
might
be
not be
four
the
variables
best solution.
ij.
Sorry, can
So
you
we will
please repeat?
divide the array into two. First, we will take any part, let's say left part. Then we will recursively find maximum in left part. Then we will go to right, and if the maximum in left part is less than that of right, we will say it is
Exactly. Yes, that is the process. That is the process. So you know it. So that is the process. So I'll just explain the process, and it is very easy actually. So divide and conquer means you have to have an idea to what extent we should divide. That is to be known in advance. To what extent we will divide? Like I told you in the theory class, we explained that the division process should continue until a point is reached where we can solve the problem. We believe that the problem is relatively small, or it is solvable, or it is manageable. So that is to be decided first. To what extent we can divide, or we should divide. To what extent, or at what point of time we will feel that our problem is relatively small and can be solved easily. So this is the first question. So these are the some of the concerns or considerations while you do a divide and conquer strategy. And then the second question or second idea is like you cannot have the problems intersecting. Divide and conquer means the problem should be disjoint. If you divide, then it should be disjoint. You cannot have the same element in the left part as well as in the right part. But if you do a dynamic programming approach, this will be different. Those things we will learn in the theory class. But divide and conquer, as we had learned in the theory class, we know that at any point of time, it is not allowed to have an intersection of the sub problems, or intersection should be a null set. You cannot have any valid number or valid value in the intersection. So that is this way you should divide. So let us start the division process. Let us start the divide. So the problem here is, let me take this as P1. This P1 problem is to find the maximum and minimum in this array, maximum and minimum in this array. So now we can divide it like this, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 elements we have. So maybe we can take 7 elements in order to make it a little complex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'll add a seventh element. The seventh element we can add it as 68. Okay. This is the way in which now we want to divide this 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can make our first division here. First division here, so that you will get a subarray here. Let us not name it. 27, 16, 51. And here you have another subarray which has 4 elements, 96, 64, 8, and 68. And here you can see that no instances will intersect. Okay, this is one of the primary conditions that you should satisfy if you go for D and C approach. That means the intersection should be a null set. The array should be divided like this. Now, the question to be asked is the problem size small now? Can you say that the problem size is small now, or is it to be, the process is to be continued further? What is your
Needs
idea?
to be continued.
It is to be continued. It is not the smallest, because we must have to find maximum and minimum. We must have an array size of either 1 or 2, not beyond that. Here on the left part we have 3, on the right part we have 4. So either 1 or 2, then we can easily find out the maximum and minimum. So let us continue the division process. So this division process, so this is another problem. So this has first problem is divided into P2. So this is the sub problem. Here we have in P2 we have two sub problems. This is one sub problem and this is another sub problem. Now you can have so 27 in, so now you divide this here and 16 and 51 here. So this is divided. And in this, you can divide like this. So 96, 64 is one subarray or subproblem. Then 868 is another subarray or another subproblem. So this is divided again. You can see this is how you can divide it. Now this becomes the third subproblem P3. Now what is the situation? Can we divide or do we need to divide it again to find the maximum and minimum? Do we need to divide it again?
No, sir.
No, because maximum and minimum can be found out by just comparing two elements. We can have either two elements or one element. One element means it is the maximum, it is the minimum. There is no point in even comparing. You don't need to have a comparison even. But here, if you have two elements means you can just find out the maximum and minimum by just comparing these two elements. So this is very easy now. This is now solvable. So now let us solve the problem P3 to get the solution S3. Maybe I'll write solution as S3. So S3 is the solution that we get where we can have a maximum value and minimum value, maximum value and minimum value. So what is the minimum value and maximum value in the first subproblem of P3? P3 has 1, 2, 3, 4 subproblems. Out of this, the first subproblem, what is the minimum? What is the maximum?
27.
Both are 27 because it is a single element array. So maximum and minimum are 27. Now coming to the answer to the second subproblem, what is the minimum? What is the maximum?
51, 16.
Yes, 51 is the maximum and 16 is the maximum. Coming here, the minimum value is 64 and maximum value is what? 96. Yes. And here the minimum value is 8 and maximum value is 6.
So you wrote opposite, sir. Opposite in the 96, 64.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. I think in the third, this I will correct. Yeah. Maximum value is 96. Minimum value is 64. Okay. And here it is correct, I think. Yeah, here it is correct. So this is how you can solve the P3 subproblem. Now we have solved the P3 subproblem to get the solution like this. Now we need to combine the solution so that we will get the answer to the P2 subproblem. So this is like this. P3 is the S3 is the solution for P3 subproblem. Now we need to find the solution for P2 subproblem. P2 subproblem means this larger array, this set of larger arrays. For that, how to find the maximum and minimum? How to find the maximum and minimum? You just tell me how to find the maximum and minimum. What is the maximum value? What is the maximum value and what is the minimum value? Let me call this as S3. This is S2 because solution to the P2 subproblem is S2 and the maximum and minimum is what you need to do is you have to compare these two maximums and these two minimums. Okay, you can combine these two solutions. So you have two maximums now and two minimums now. Out of these, which is the maximum, which is the minimum?
51 is the maximum and 16 is the minimum.
Yes, 51 is the maximum and comparing these two minimum values, you will get 16 is the minimum. So 51 is the maximum and 16 is the minimum. It is not over. You have another subproblem. This is the subproblem. And to this subproblem, what is the solution? Which one is the maximum? Which one is the minimum? Here 96 is the maximum and 64, no, 8 is the minimum. Okay. So now we solve the P2 subproblem and this is actually the combining process. So up to this point it was dividing. So this is the division process and from here it is combining. So we have combined. One more step is remaining. One more step. Now you need to combine these subsolutions. So you have some subsolutions as S2. Now we want the subsolution S1. It is not the subsolution, it is the main solution. This is the solution to the main problem. So this is P1 and S1 is the solution for P1. Then you will get another set of maximum and minimum values. So what is this? You have to combine these two. So now you have two maximums here, out of which one is the maximum out of these two? 96 is the maximum and 8 is the minimum, which will be the answer to our original question. So if you check the array, in the array, the maximum element is 96 and the minimum element is 8. Now we reached at the final solution. So up to this point, it was division, and from this point, it is combining the solutions. So combining. So this is combining the solutions, and once we reach here, we got the individual maximum and minimum, and this is the final answer. And this is how you can do a divide and conquer approach to find the maximum and minimum value. Now, what is the advantage that you are getting compared to our old method, this traditional method? What is the advantage? No advantage. If no advantage means it's just another approach. That's it.
Time complexity is
Yes, exactly. Time complexity, the number of comparisons. If you count the number of comparisons in both the methods, the number of comparisons in divide and conquer strategy will be less compared to the number of comparisons here in this for loop. In this for loop, the number of comparisons will be more. But you cannot tell that it is exactly this is the number of comparisons, because that depends on the input. Okay. So if you have same input size, but still the number of comparisons or time complexity is different, means what is that? Where can you relate to that theoretical concept? Where will you relate this idea? You have the same input size, that is input size is 7, but still you will have number of comparisons different for different input instances. Then this can be related to our theoretical concept. What is that? Same number of elements, n is constant. Yes. Sorry, please repeat.
Time complexity.
Yeah, time complexity, exactly. But my question is, same are n, same n, but the complexity is different. But the complexity is different. Sometimes it will be less complex, sometimes it will be more complex. What is this? Last semester we have learned. Dash case, and dash case.
Best case.
worst case, best case.
Worst case, and average case. So you cannot tell exactly that always this algorithm, you just count the number of comparisons here and just count the number of comparisons in the second approach, and you just arrive at a conclusion that the number of comparisons will be exactly the same. Not like that. It depends on the array, input array, in what way the elements are organized. If I use the same set of elements in a different order, the number of comparisons will be different. Okay. But in all the cases, if you test the same array with this traditional approach and divide and conquer approach, the number of comparisons will be less. That is what we can say. There is no general formula for finding out the number of comparisons, because it depends on the way in which elements are organized in the array. If it is completely sorted, if it is such constructs will be there. So there are certain differences. You cannot say that it will be a constant, or you cannot ask me just write a formula for finding out maximum and minimum. It depends on the input. Even though the size of the input is the same, the arrangement of elements in the array matters a lot. So that's how it works. But in general, you can say that the advantage that we are getting a divide and conquer approach is you can have less number of comparisons. This is true. If you try it for the same input, it will be true. Maybe same input means the input should be the same, not the size. If I use a different array of the same size, then the number of comparisons will also be different. This is generally, this comes under the heading of best case or worst case or average case, which case it actually falls into. And if you are interested, you can yourself think and identify what is the best case for this scenario, what is the worst case, what is the average case, when will you have the minimum number of comparisons. For getting the minimum number of comparisons, in what way the elements are to be arranged in the array. All those things you can think and identify. I am not discussing all those things. So this is going to be your first question, and maybe I'll show you just the pseudocode also. Pseudocode is not required actually, but still, since it is The first experiment, I'll show the pseudocode. Hereafter, I'll not show. I'll just give you the algorithm. It's your responsibility to write the code because it's not a coding class. This is not a C class or this is not a Python class. This is just an algorithm class. So I'll tell you the algorithm. Okay. So, but still here we have to have certain constructs, like when you convert an algorithm to programs, you need to take care of small things. There will be a lot of small things to be taken care of. Otherwise, the process will not give expected results. So here, if you see what is to be taken. So here you can see this is a recursive algorithm. On the line number 1, you can see, maybe I'll to maximize this. I don't know. It's working. Okay. Let's slightly zoom in. Okay. So you can see an recursive function, which is min max or something, find min max or something, which is the recursive function. To this function, we are passing arguments array, then the law index, then the high index, then the current minimum element and current maximum element are passed as call by reference. That is, call by reference and call by value, I guess, because if the function modifies these values or function updates these values, that updation will be reflected in the main function. That is the advantage of having call by reference like this. So if you use call by reference, just put an ampersand before the parameter or variable name. That is the idea, and you know that. So here, what type of situations we will be in? This is one of the situations, that is, you will have only a single element. If you have only a single element, what is that single element? That single element will itself be the maximum or minimum if it is greater than the current maximum or less than the current minimum. Okay. So every time before fixing the maximum and minimum, you need to compare it with the existing maximum and existing minimum. That is important. So while writing the algorithm, we did not mention that, but when you write the actual code, this will be there. Okay. So here, if you see this, if the array, line number 3, you can see a comment, that is if the array contains only one element. If you have a one element array, so what is the termination condition of the recursion? When can you stop the recursion and do the coding, do the actual solving
When
of
there
the
is
problem?
only one element.
One element
element.
either or
Two.
two elements. These two are the stopping conditions of the recursion. Otherwise, you continue the same thing. Whenever you get a one element array or two element array, you can stop. So here, those two cases should be addressed as the base case for the recursion. So these are the base cases for the recursion. So if law is equal to high, what do you mean by law index equal to high index? There is only one element in the array because both the indices are the same. So law index equal to high index means one element in the array that is to be checked, and then there will be an existing maximum and existing minimum. So before assigning the maximum value as array of law index, you have to check if it is less than the current or maximum is less than current low. That means you can assign the maximum as the array sub low. Okay, array sub low and array sub high are equal, so anything you can write here in this case. Okay. Similarly, if minimum is greater than the array index, that means the minimum value is to be updated. If that is the array sub high index and low index are same, but in order to have the consistency in the code, it is written like this. So minimum is greater than array index, then you can make the minimum as the array index. Okay, array sub high index. So this is how you can handle the case where we have only one element in the array. Have you understood this? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
No? Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then if you fix that, or if you make these assignments either in say line number 8 or in line number 12, both of them will not happen to, or maybe both of them will happen together. So in 8, they may happen or may not happen, but if it happens or it doesn't happen, you have to return. Okay, so in line number 15, we will return. So that is why this is the one of the base cases. So in recursive function, if you address the base case, immediately after that, you will have the return. If you check the factorial code, when it is equal to 1, you will be returning. So Like that, in every recursive code, the base case will cause the function to return. Okay. So these are basic things you can understand from experience. If you do a whole lot of recursive programs, then you will understand what is a base case, when where to return from the function, like that. So now we have in line number 18 or from line number 20, you can see that if array contains only 2 elements. So this is also again a base case. If only one element, it's a base case. Only 2 elements means it is again a base case. In that case, we have to, or we can identify that case by high minus low is equal to 1. High minus low is equal to 1. Then the array has 2 elements. That is high index minus low index equal to 1. So array has 2 elements. Any 2 element array, if you subtract the low index from high index, you will get 1. You consider, just imagine a 2 element array. This will be true. And if array sub low is less than array sub high. So here a little more things to be done. First of all, you need to identify the minimum element among those 2 elements. That is what is done in line number 22. And then compare with the existing minimum and assign accordingly. If this is greater, that is the minimum value is less. This array sub low is less. Then you can assign minimum as like this, or else you can assign maximum as this array sub I. Okay. So should I explain it more? Not needed, right? It's easy, right? It's easy, right? Or else I'll show you one case because of I don't get any reply. This is actually very simple. So these figures are coming. So here, if this is the situation, let us go back to our problem and address a scenario where it is like, here, 16 and 51. Let us consider the case of 16 and 51. And if you come here, this is 16 and 51 we are currently in. And the current minimum and current maximum will be some values. Okay, current minimum and current maximum will be some values. Let us simply say that current minimum is 8 and current maximum is 91. Okay, let us simply say that. Now, if so, this is the index of the array. This is 0 and this is 1. This is 0 and 1. You can see that high minus low, that is 1 minus 0 is equal to 1. So here it will enter. That means the array has exactly 2 elements. Now, what is array of low? What is array of low? So this will be low and this will be high. What is array of low? It is 16. Is less than array of high. What is array of high? It is 51. Yes, this is true. If this is true, minimum is greater than array of low we are checking. What is minimum? Minimum is 8. Current minimum, you can see current minimum is 8. If it is greater than array of low, what is array of low? It is 16. If it is greater, then minimum is equal to, but this is not greater. So this condition is false. So it will not enter here. It will not enter here. This part is not taken for this particular example. Now check for maximum. If maximum is less than array of high, what is maximum? Maximum is 91. Is it less than what is array of high? It is 51. 91 is less than 51. No, this is also wrong. So this part is also not taken. Okay. Now else, otherwise. So what is the situation is the current minimum and current maximum, both of them will hold. Okay. It will not be changed. Current minimum and current maximum will not be changed. So that is the situation here. Okay. You understood this? Now, at least.
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then this can happen in the reverse also. If this is instead of 16 and 51, if the array is like 51 and 16, then the scenario will change and this part will be taken. This part will be taken. Okay, that is one case. That is another case. Now you can have other case also. Instead of this, minimum is just 18 and maximum is 41. Maximum is 41. Current minimum is 18 and current maximum is 41. This is another case. In that case, what will happen? Is this the eraser? Yes. In that case, what will happen? All these things will change. Okay. You can see that current minimum is 18 and current maximum is 41. In that case, what are the changes that are coming in? So high minus low is equal to 2. That means we have equal to 1. That means we have 2 element array. Then array of low is less than array of high. Array of low is less than array of high. 16 is less than 51. Yes, correct. So the loop will enter here, or if this if conditional will go down. So line number 24 will be taken. What is happening? If minimum, what is minimum? Current minimum, it is 18. Is it greater than array of low? What is array of low? 16. Yes, this is yes, this is true. In that case, minimum equal to array of low. So the current minimum we are going to update. It is equal to array of low. What is array of low? It is equal to 16. So this guy will be get updated to 16. Okay. Now, if maximum is less than array of high, so what is maximum? Current maximum is 41. Is it less than array of high? What is array of high? It is 51. 41 is less than 51. That is true. True means here it will enter. This part it will enter. And maximum equal to array of high. So this maximum is going to be updated. What is that? Array of high. So equal to 51. You can see the maximum and minimum are easily updated. So if you go through this pseudo code, you can understand that it will very easily compute the maximum and minimum. Similarly, we have other cases too. Okay. If you go down, you have other cases too. And this is also a base case. That is why in line number 41, you have a return. Now both the base cases are written. Then now we can go to the recursive part. What is the recursive part? Recursive part is the division process. Find out the mid equal to low plus high by 2 always. You can perform the integer division. Or if you declare it as int, you will get the integer part alone. So this program will be correct anyhow. Now find max min. You make two recursive calls. First recursive call for the first part, that is low to mid. Second recursive call for mid plus 1 to high. That part that is also addressed. So this division process will be continued until you get a one element array or two element array. And I have excluded the main function and all you write and you do this program, and this is very easy. So this is the logic, and hereafter I will not explain any program, but still since this is the first. So this is the advantage of using C. You will know everything, because if you once dry run this code, you will understand everything. So that is why C is insisted. Okay, C or C++. C++ is also equally good. Okay, what is the difference? No difference between C and C++. Just C in, C out, and printf, scanf. That's it. Anyway, that is the code for pseudo code for this divide and conquer using maximum and minimum. This you have to do today after the class. The class is not ended. We have to discuss another problem, because these lab sessions are nowadays very long. Okay, so we can discuss this problem, and remember one thing, this problem is taken from the syllabus. So this is part of theory course also. You can expect questions for the theory exams also from this portion. Okay, so we will take some questions from the theory classes and we will discuss it in the lab. Don't think that it is discussed in the lab, so it will be only for lab examination. Okay, we will discuss important problems in lab as well. Okay. That is also taken from the syllabus, and that you can expect for theory exams also. Okay. Additionally, one thing you need to do is, if we discuss in lab, you have to do that problem also. If it is discussed only in theory class, you need to learn the algorithm, the analysis, such kind of things. You don't need to implement it. If you are interested, you can implement it your own, and I recommend you to do that. Then only you can have a feeling of that. But all the problems cannot be implemented in lab because of time. Then our semester will be 1 year. Semester course, if you convert it into an year course, then you can implement all the problems. So we will select some problems and we will implement in the lab. That is how this semester will proceed. Okay. Now let us go to the second problem, which is again very interesting. So you can see where it is. What is that? The Strassens method. Okay, matrix multiplication using Strassens method. Okay, so this is again a divide and conquer approach. So second divide and conquer problem. So I told you we will be learning the divide and conquer approach in the theory class, and we will be applying it in the lab slots. You will be doing the programs in the lab slots. So any doubts in the divide and conquer maximum minimum? Are you following everyone, or are you sleeping? It's an afternoon hour. It is difficult to stay alive. Everyone slept?
Alive.
Alive. Okay, at
We
least
are
some
alive,
of
sir.
you are alive.
We are live,
Okay.
sir.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It is, I appreciate your dedication, and it's very difficult. It's because you are so much interested. That is why it's mostly
Yes, sir.
very
Even
difficult.
after 4 class, we have also 1 lab left.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. You will be feeling like tired, hectic, or that fatigue will be there. You will feel sleepy because right from morning 8 a.m. you will have classes, maybe except for a lunch break of some 45 minutes or so. So that usually happens in the initial stages of your career, like first year, second year. After second year, you will be a little more relaxed because the subjects will be electives and you will be choosing like that. But in first year and second year, you will be tightly packed. I know all these
But
things.
sir, after that, we have to see for placement now, sir, after third year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the last 2 semesters, you have to focus on such activities. Right, right. You are right. But in first semester, initial semesters, those activities will not be there. And instead of that, you will have all the headaches in the form of classes and labs like this. Every time somebody will be there to disturb you, somebody there to, like you, if you wanted to sleep, it's, you can sleep in the class. That's the only option. Okay. But don't sleep in this class. Okay. I think you are not sleeping. Anyway, let us discuss this method very quickly. Okay, I will not take much of your time, but if I discuss it quickly, then rest of the things you should do yourself. Okay, these two programs I enable in the Moodle. I have enabled in the Moodle, I guess, but don't go to Moodle now. Just listen to the class, and after that we will go to the Moodle and do the implementation. And for submitting this assignment, at least 1 week will be given. So you can take your time and submit the assignment. Okay. So this is matrix multiplication by Strassen's method. Strassen's method. So it is again a divide and conquer approach. So this is going to be our second example for divide and conquer problem. And this is also taken from the syllabus. So this is there in the syllabus. This you can very well expect this for theory exams also. This will not be repeated in theory classes. Okay. This will be done in the lab only. This will not be repeated in theory class because there is no point there. It's just a waste of time repeating the same thing. So this idea we will complete it now. Matrix multiplication, you know how to write a program for matrix multiplication. You would have learned this in your C or C++ courses. You had that CSE 1002 course, right? CPP.
Yes, sir.
You had that?
Object
All of you?
programming, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in that, or maybe matrix multiplication is again a what basic program. Every C student will come across this program at some stage of his studies. So you would have learned this. Okay. So tell me how matrix multiplication works. Matrix
Like take first row and the first row of first matrix and the first column of the second matrix.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So if you have A11, A12, or I think I have the diagram. Yeah. This is the actual matrix multiplication. Okay. You can see that if these are the matrices, then this is the matrix A, this is the matrix B, and your answer is C. This is the C matrix. And you can have what is your task is to identify all the elements in C matrix, C11, C12 up to that up to these elements. But what is the condition regarding the dimension or order of the matrices? If A is an by n matrix, then B should be
So n into
cross something.
some n into some other p. Some other p. That means the number of rows in a number of columns in the first matrix should be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. And what is the dimension of the resultant matrix?
M cross P.
Yeah, if this is m cross n and this is n cross p, then this will be removed and the matrix result will be m cross p matrix. M cross p matrix. So that is how matrix multiplication works. If that order is not preserved, you cannot multiply those two matrices. Okay. These things you know from +2 classes or maybe before that. Here A11, so how to multiply? There is an algorithm, there is a procedure, there is a process. It is not like the individual elements are multiplied and put it here. It is not like that. First row is to be taken and it should be multiplied with all the elements, individual elements in the first column to get the first value in the resultant matrix. Second row multiplied with the second column to get this value or this value. I think this value. Okay, so that is how matrix multiplication will go. This will do this again. This is multiplied with okay. This you will get this. This multiplied with the first column, you will get this. Like that, you have to multiply and identify or find out all the elements in the resultant matrix, that is the C matrix. In short, it is written like this using the summation symbol sigma. It is written like this: Cij is equal to Aik Bkj. So this is what we use in our programs: Aik plus Bkj, where k is running from 1 to n, I is from 1 to m. This is 1 to m. This is an m by n matrix. So m by n. A is an m by n matrix. That is why this is from 1 to m. And j is from n to j is from 1 to p, since this is n by p matrix. Okay. And this should run from 1 to n, which is the column, because each element in this row will be multiplied by each element in this column. So this row number is n and this column number is n. That is why the k index is running from k1 to n. Okay. So that is how matrix multiplication happens. If you expand this, you will get the formula. I am not expanding it. If you are interested, you can expand and see. You can see that C11 equal to A11 into B11 plus A12 into B21, like that it will go. Okay, if you expand. I'm not expanding, it's just you know how to expand this because you people are expert in mathematics, so you can expand it and see if you want. And this is a general multiplication, but here in divide and conquer strategy, if you follow, so this is matrix multiplication using divide and conquer. Here we consider only square matrix. So here in this example or in this discussion, we will consider only square matrix. So m is equal to p is equal to n. Square matrix m is equal to p is equal to n. So everything we will consider as n. So n by n and n by n. Both the matrices are n by n. So you can very well multiply because both are square matrices. So that is the idea. So with this background, let us write the algorithm for square matrix multiplication. This is the square matrix multiplication. Exactly the formula written here in this slide. This will be utilized, I told you. So you have to have a loop like this, then a loop like this, then a loop like this. So these loops will be written here. A equal to n equal to a dot rows, because this is square matrix, the number of rows, number of columns, everything will be equal for matrices A and B and for the result C. Okay, so C will also be a square matrix of order n by n. So this is the first for loop which runs from n. So here m and p, no m and p, here m is equal to n is equal to p, since all the matrices are square matrices. So I will run from 0 to n, j will run from 0 to n, and Cij is equal to 0 is initialized, and this is the accumulating variable. This is the accumulating variable, and to this Cij values are accumulated. And k will also run from 1 to n because it's a square matrix. All are square matrices. Cij is equal to Cij, the existing Cij plus Aik Bkj. So this is same as this formula, Aik Bkj, same formula. Okay. So this is how you can multiplies two square matrices. So this is the algorithm. And what is the complexity? It is written as big O of n cube. What is the reason for that complexity? Big O of n
Because
cube.
there
If you
are
apply,
three loops.
yeah,
Three
if you
nested
apply
for loops.
three nested for loops, and if you apply the frequency counting method for identifying the complexity, you count the frequency of this particular instruction. This guy will be executed n cube times. Okay, this guy will be executed for n cube times, and this guy will be executed for n square times. So that is the reason why the bigger value is big O of n cube. So we will take big O of n cube. So that is the complexity of the algorithm. In general, you can say that if you have three nested loops, the complexity will be big O of n cube. Now we are going for a divide and conquer approach for matrix multiplication. And our assumption is that we think that we can reduce the complexity just like our maximum minimum, maximum minimum, the number of comparisons we could reduce with the application of divide and conquer strategy. A similar result we are expecting here. We proceed with the hope that divide and conquer strategy will reduce the complexity to something lesser than big O of n cube. Let us see how can you do this divide and conquer strategy using divide and conquer strategy. Okay. Then we will come to Strasson's multiplication algorithm. So here divide and conquer strategy, what it does is you can see what are the requirements for divide and conquer strategy. You can read the first point and second point. Divide and conquer means you have to reduce the problems into smaller problems, of course. Up to what extent you will reduce? This question is to be answered before starting the problem. So now we are about to start the problem. So you just answer this question. Up to what extent you should continue the division process? Up to what extent you will continue the division process? Up to any extent according to your convenience. But here in this example, we will continue the division process until the matrices are 2 by 2 or smaller. So we will consider that 2 by 2 matrix we can multiply without any for loop. Without any for loop or any other things, we can multiply 2 by 2 matrices. How to multiply 2 by 2 matrices? If you have A11 like this is a 2 by 2 matrix. This is another 2 by 2 matrix. And this is the resulting 2 by 2 matrix. That is, this is A, this is B, and this is C. How will you identify each entries in the C? What is C11? It's A11 into B11 plus A12 into B12. So that is C11. A12 into B21. That is C11. Right. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So this is how you can multiply 2 by 2 matrix. 2 by 2 matrix you can directly multiply. So we understand or we believe that 2 by 2 matrices are handleable for us, and that is the point where we can stop the dividing process until you might have a 16 by 16 matrices to be multiplied. 16 by 16 means convert first into 8 by 8, then convert it into 4 by 4. Then convert it into 2 by 2. Once it is 2 by 2, you can use these direct formulas. So these are direct formulae to multiply 2 by 2 matrices. So these 4 formula you can use C11, C12, C21, C22. So these are direct formulae. And will it depend on the input size? Will this depend on the input size? What is the complexity of having or executing these functions, these expressions? What is the complexity?
Constant.
Constant. Why? Because
Constant.
do you have any n there? Do you have any n there? We don't have any n. This is just a multiplication. This is an addition. This is a multiplication. This is multiplication, addition, multiplication. All the multiplications and additions can be done in constant time because it does not depend on the input size. So the complexity, no for loops, nothing. The time complexity here is big O of 1 or constant complexity. So 2 by 2 matrices we can multiply with constant complexity. So until that stage, you should divide your problem. Okay. So that is how the idea. Reduce the problem into smaller sizes, and a problem is smaller, and even 1 by 1 case is there because 1 by 1 case will not occur here because we will stop the division until 2 by 2. So we will not let the problem to scale down to 1 by 1 because 2 by 2 itself we stopped the division process. 2 by 2, if you divide further, you will get 1 by 1, but we don't have that scenario. We will stop at 2 by 2. And if it is 2 by 2, apply these formulae. So it's very easy. Now let us write an algorithm for this. So yeah, but before this, we need to make some assumptions. Make the first assumption is the dimension is a power of 2. If the dimension is not a power of 2, what will happen? If dimension is not a power of 2, what will happen? Like if I use 6 by 6 matrix, 6 by 6 matrix means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like this. So we cannot divide it properly. The division will be something like this, and this will be a small one. Here you cannot consider. So to apply the divide and conquer strategy for matrix multiplication, we assume that the dimension of matrix is a power of 2. So either you have 4 by 4 matrix, or 8 by 8, or 16 by 16, or 32 by 32. Like that, if the dimension is a power of 2, then you can easily divide the matrix and reach our base case. What is our base case? Base case is 2 by 2. We will directly multiply. Okay. Now divide the matrices A and B in 4 submatrices of size n by 2 cross n by 2 as shown in the below diagram. So this is the diagram. So if you have a large matrix like this, so I will just tell you the case. So maybe, yeah, at this stage I can. Here like this, suppose I have a matrix like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, like this. Like this, you have a matrix, assume that. So this is an 8 by 8 matrix. So if you have a 8 by 8 matrix like this, if you divide it like this, you will get here a 4 by 4 matrix, and here a 4 by 4 matrix, here a 4 by 4 matrix, here a 4 by 4 matrix. Now let us take again each of these subproblems. So here we have 4 subproblems. I will take one subproblem, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 4 by 4 matrix. Now you can do a division again like this. This is the division. Okay. Now this is 2 by 2. This is 2 by 2. 2 by 2 means it is our base case. This is 2 by 2. 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 All are 2 by 2. So this is our base case. This you can directly do. But now the situation is, this is a matrix and we will consider this as a matrix A. This is a matrix, this is B, this is C, and this is D. Now, if you follow the matrix multiplication pattern, what will happen? Similarly, another matrix will be there, which is of 2 by 2, 4 by 4. Then you can have another matrix here, which is equal to P, which is equal to Q, this is equal to R, and this is equal to S. If you multiply these two matrices using the matrix multiplication formula, what is the result? What is the result? What will come here? What will come here? These are not elements, but the elements pattern you can follow. This is a matrix. So what is the A into P? So here A into P, and here plus
B
A,
Plus
Plus
B
B
into
into R.
R.
B into
R.
B into R. B into R. This is B into R. Okay. Now you can follow the same process with how to get this element. First row, second
A-
column, because this is
AQ
first row,
plus
second
BS.
column. So A into Q plus B into
S.
S. Okay. So here C into P plus D into R. Here B into Q plus D into S. Am I right or wrong? I'm wrong, I think. B into not C into Q plus D into S.
D.
Correct. Yeah. Now is it correct or wrong? It is
Yes,
correct, I
correct.
think. Yeah, this is correct. So, but what is the difference here? If you follow this previous slide, what we have seen is these are elements. These are multiplication of single elements. This is addition of ordinary elements, ordinary numbers. These are numbers. But here, what is the difference? These are matrices. A into P. So this operation is a matrix multiplication. This operation is a matrix addition. This operation is a matrix multiplication. Similarly, all these. So this is the basic idea. We divide the matrices into small pieces and we consider the matrix as an element. This is an element. You consider this is an element. This is an element. This is an element. Similarly, this is an element. This is an element. This is an element. This is an element. And multiply and assume that this is elements and do the multiplication, but actually they are not elements, they are matrices. So you understand that if you write A into P, it is matrix multiplication, and A into P plus B into R means this is matrix addition, not ordinary addition. Understood? So this is the idea here. Exactly the same thing is written here. So divide the matrices A and B into n by 2 and n by 2 as shown in the below diagram. So this is our original matrix and this is our original matrix A and B. We need to have the result as C. So here what you can do is you can divide the matrix like this, calculate the following values recursively, and this again divide like that. So AE plus BG. So this here instead of PQRS, they have used EFGH and also small letters. So in this slide, we have used PQRS and ABCD capital letters. But here the notation is different, but the result will be the same. So you can read this. This is copied from Geeks for Geeks. Okay. These are not drawn by me. I should give credit to them. So A, B, and C are square matrices of size n by n. That is okay. N is a power of 2. A, B, C, and D are submatrices of A size n by 2 and n by 2. Okay, agreed. E, F, G, H are submatrices of size B n by 2, n by 2. And if you do this, this is the operation, and this is how you can do the matrix multiplication using divide and conquer. And here you should note that what is to be noted. A, E, B, G are matrices. Don't think that they are numbers, they are matrices. So AE and BG involves, AE plus BG involves 2 matrix multiplication and 1 matrix addition. So this is 1 matrix multiplication, this is another matrix multiplication, and this is a matrix addition. Okay. Similarly, all others. So now, are you getting a small idea? Or are you getting a small idea of things? What is happening? Hello?
Yes. sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this idea, okay, this idea, okay, this will die now. So this idea, you have to convert it into an algorithm, recursive, because divide and conquer is closely related to recursion. I told you, divide and conquer is closely related to recursive algorithm. Recursive algorithm is closely related to what? What? Recurrence relations. Okay, we should move fast. Yeah. So here you can see this is the algorithm. Okay, so I have a matrix multiplication MM. Let me name it as MM, and A is my input matrix and B is another input matrix and N is the size, which is another input. If the number of dimension or dimension is less than or equal to 2, what you have to do? Use the direct formula. So this is the base case. You can use the direct formula and return. Okay, you can use the direct formulae given in the previous slide. What are the direct formulae? These are the direct formulae. If the matrix size is 2 by 2 or less, even less will not happen because it is 2 by 2 itself, you will use the formula. You can write it as equal to also. Okay. Anyway, this is a pseudocode. Otherwise, what is to be done? Matrix multiplication A, E, n by 2, matrix multiplication B, G, n by 2, according to this diagram. According to this diagram, AE is of n by 2, BG is of n by 2, and these are to be added. Okay. Are you following? Following? AE n by 2, B plus BG n by 2. So same thing we have written, but using recursive method. Understood? If you are not responding, I think actually I wanted to stop by 5, but it will not happen. Matrix multiplication AE n by 2, BG n by 2, AF n by 2, same thing, same thing. Don't use this diagram, this diagram. Okay. AEBG, AFBH, like that. Okay. This will be the second. And this will be the third, and this will be the fourth. So how many matrix multiplications and how many matrix additions are there in this formula, in this algorithm? You have the, how many recursive calls are there? How many recursive calls are there? This is the algorithm. This is the call that is again called here. This is the function that is again called here. So how many recursive calls are there?
8.
8 recursive calls are there. So 8 recursive calls or 8 matrix multiplications are there. And how many additions are there? One addition, this addition, this addition, this addition. So 4 additions are there. 4 additions are there. Okay. So if you write the recurrence, So you can come and see here, total 8 multiplications for matrices of size n by 2, and 4 additions we have. 4 additions we have. Addition of matrices will take big O of n square time, we all know. Addition of matrices will take big O of n square time. Hence the recurrence will be Tn equal to 8Tn by 2 plus n square. So 8 times we are calling the same function for size n by 2. So it is 8 times Tn by 2. So size n by 2, 8 calls. So it will be 8Tn by 2 plus 4 additions. For that it will take big O of n square. While writing the recurrence, you can remove the big O part and you can just write n square. If you solve this recurrence, again the complexity will be big O of n cube. So what was our expectation? Our expectation was divide and conquer will reduce the time complexity a little bit, but it did not happen. We have big O of n cube for the iterative version, which I showed you in the previous slide here. Even this algorithm itself, it takes big O of n cube, and we followed the divide and conquer strategy. Still that algorithm is giving you the result big O of n cube. So there is nothing, no advantage for going for divide and conquer strategy. So what is to be done is, here the Strassen's method comes into picture. Strassen has introduced a methodology by which you can reduce the big O of n cube complexity to a little lesser value. This can be reduced using Strassen's method. So what Strassen has done is, he has reduced the number of recursive calls to 7. So it was the number of recursive calls. That is the reason why we have the recurrence 8Tn by 2 plus n square was the recurrence, but Strassen has reduced the number of recursive calls to 7. So the same left hand side, you can see the same left hand side we have here. Our method, usual traditional divide and conquer, you have the same left hand side. But in the right hand side, this right hand side, if you count, you have 8 recursive calls or 8 multiplications you have, and 2 additions you have. But Strassen has improved this a little bit. How the Strassen's method is applied, you know, it is like this. You can identify P1. First you identify these quantities, P1, P3, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6, P7. So P1 to P7 you identify. P1 is equal to A. This is a matrix. This is not a number. A into F minus G. So how many multiplication and addition here? Subtraction is another form of addition. So here you have one multiplication. Here you have one multiplication, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see 7 multiplications only. So the multiplication, number of multiplications has been reduced by 1 in the Strassen's method. And if you add these things, P1, P2, identification of P1 to P7 is not enough. You have to add in this way, then you will get the same result. That is what Strassen proposes. Okay. Understood? So what is to be done? If you want to multiply this using the traditional divide and conquer, will take 8 multiplications. But here, if you can see, if you first apply A is non, B is non, C is non, D is non, E, F, G, H all are non. That means you can compute P1 to P7, all these values. Compute that, substitute P1 and P1 to P6. These formulas used here to get the C matrix. This is the C matrix. Okay. So P1 to P7 you compute using the non matrices A to H, and then use that P1 to P7 to substitute here instead of our traditional divide and conquer. If it is traditional divide and conquer, here we will write A, E and B, A, E plus A, E plus B,
G.
B, G. But don't write this. Instead of this, write this. So where will you get P5? P5 you will get from here. Where will you get P4? You will get P4 from here. So you can see that the number of recursive calls is reduced from 8 to 7. And what is the advantage that we get? What was the recurrence before? Before this formula, the recurrence was Tn is equal to 8Tn by 2, because 8 times the recursive calls were made for n by 2 size matrices, and big O of n square to handle the addition, but now Tn is equal to 7Tn by 2 plus n square, because the in Strasson's method, the recursive calls will be made just one less. Upon solving this recurrence, you got big O of n square, n cube. But upon solving this recurrence, you will get big O of n power 2.8074. So which is better, n cube or n power 2.8? Which is better? Are you fed up?
N to the power
N
2.
power n power 2.8 is better. N power 2.8 is better. So that is why Strasson's method has slightly improved. But this will matter a lot if you multiply 1 million cross 1 million matrix. Okay, 2.8 and 3, they are different if you multiply very matrices of very large size, like 1024 or 2086, because the power should be great, dimension should be a power of 2. So such matrices, if you multiply, you can get substantial reduction in the running time. And this is Strasson's method. So what is the crux of the things is, first point you should note is, there is no reduction in complexity by changing the divide and conquer in a traditional manner. But if you apply the Strasson's method, it also follows divide and conquer, but it reduces the computational complexity from big O of n cube to big O of n power 2.8. Okay, so this is better than big O of n cube. And in generally, Strasson's method are not applied due to these reasons. I am not explaining these reasons. This you can read it from the slide when I upload in VTop. So this is all about Strasson's method, and I'm sorry that the class got extended up to now. Okay. This was okay. That is what I wanted to say now. Thank you, and you will also be saying the same to me. Thank you. We are fed up. I understand, but I'm sorry. So this is these two exercises you need to do as your first lab experiment. Not first lab experiment. First lab experiment will more and more experiments will be added. But for today, it will be these two experiments: the Strasson's method and divide and conquer strategy for finding maximum and minimum. Now, quickly in 5 minutes, you can log into your Moodle and see whether these experiments are up. Just log into Moodle and tell me whether can you see this experiment or not.
Yes, sir, they are available.
Yeah, and what about, can you start solving it? Not for, I'm not asking you to solve it now, but what is the deadline given? Maybe if that deadline is not sufficient, I can extend the deadline. What is the deadline given as of now?
18th August.
18th August, is it fine? You will get 1 week, I guess. These two problems you can solve, and you solve it and submit it. Test cases are given. You make your program succeed the test cases, and that's all. We covered 2 divide and conquer problems today, and you can do these 2 exercises. And today we have a course committee meeting, and the rest of the experiments will be decided today, I guess. According to that, we will have our next lab. Okay. So how many of you are present? 63. Okay, fine. So these are the set of experiments. You do that. Okay. I don't insist you to do it now. You can take your time.
You only have to submit it on Moodle.
Yeah, only Moodle. Okay, this time only Moodle, and you will consolidate it and submit it in VTop as the deadline approaches. I think deadline is next month. For the first assessment, VTop deadline is next month. So you do these 2 experiments plus the experiments which we do in the next week, probably. All these experiments you can consolidate and upload in VTop. Just download from Moodle and upload in VTop. That's all. No need of writing or anything, because basically all the evaluations will happen in Moodle only. Okay, and I will check. Passing the test cases are not enough. I will check whether have you used the divide and conquer approach actually. Have you used the Strasson's method, or you simply use the matrix multiplication traditional method? So don't think that the proposed grade is 10 means your grade is 10. I'll reduce the mark if Strasson's method is not followed. I'll reduce the mark if divide and conquer is not followed for maximum and minimum. So follow divide and conquer strategy because our objective is to learn divide and conquer strategy. You remember the name of the subject, it is design and analysis of algorithms. So we need to design algorithms in divide and conquer or specific algorithm design strategies. Okay. Now what we can do, you can tell me, okay, if you are trying the experiment, you can do it for some time, or if you are fed up, then this was a long class, even I feel tired. Next class onwards, we will pick up simple experiments so that I can finish explaining it in 45 minutes or maximum 1 hour. The remaining time you can try it in Moodle. That would be a nice idea. But for that, I should get the list of experiments. Probably I'll get it today. Okay. So any doubts, any questions regarding anything not related to subject, related to Moodle, related to VTOP, related to submissions? Any questions? You are not in a position to even ask questions, right?
No questions, sir.
Okay. No questions,
No
please.
questions, sir.
Please leave us, right?
Yes, sir. Please
Okay.
upload that PPT, sir. PDF.
Yeah, I'll upload that in what? VTOP. Okay. I'll upload in VTOP. Today itself I'll upload. And okay then. Thank you very much and sorry for the long class because 2 algorithms I wanted to cover. One reason. And next class onwards we will take only 1 algorithm. And so that you will get some free time to experiment it on Moodle. Okay. During the lab time itself, if you experiment on Moodle, it is advantageous because you can ask your doubts, live interact with me in live. But even if you have any doubts, you can send a Teams chat message. Okay, no problem. At any time you can do that. So with this, let us stop. Okay. You can leave the meeting because attendance will be available. No need of any separate download. Okay. You may leave and you can aram se do this after the class.